We've wrapped up the testing on our Enduro bike of the year, and the Bird Aeris AM9 is one of our top 5 bikes. This is Bird's first stab at a 29-inch wheel full suspension bike, and it's a bloody good one. We were lucky enough to get one of the first bikes available. For me, I'd normally go for a medium, which in this case would have had a reach of 452mm. But because it was such an early bike, they only had a medium long available, which has a reach of 475mm. I must admit, it wasn't my first choice for size. The 475 reach is pretty big, but in fact, it actually worked out really well, and I felt totally comfortable on board this bike throughout the whole of the testing period. The bottom bracket sits at 345mm off the ground, and it feels low enough through the turns for me. The head angle is 65 degrees, while the seat angle is a very steep 76 degrees, which makes climbing much easier going. It's also got all its cables routed externally, so for anyone who likes to do work on their bike, it does make life that bit easier. There's none of that faff with the internal routing, although it does look marginally messier, some might say. It's not something that worries me, so I kind of appreciate that. For those not familiar with how Bird works, it's a direct sell model whereby you visit their website and select a bike. You can then fully customize it. So you can literally change every single component on that, all dependent upon your budget. Our test bike was based on the AM9 GX build, so based around the GX Eagle transmission. I then opted to have the RockShox Lyric RCT3 fork. I've also changed the tyres, which come as standard, so I've actually gone for the Maxxis Shorty front and Maxxis High Roller on the rear, because I thought that would be pretty much perfect for the British conditions that I had while I was testing throughout the winter. I also upgraded the brakes to something a little more powerful, so I used the SRAM Guide REs. And my bike also came with a race face effect 150mm drop post. All in, that'll set you back £3,329 without the shipping costs on top of that in the UK. That means this is a decent value bike. Okay, you haven't got the carbon frame that you might get from other direct brands, but you have picked the parts yourself, so you know what you're getting is what you want, which is great and somewhat of a rarity to be able to do. I must admit, I was a little bit worried that having gone up in size, what I was going to be riding was going to feel like a bit of a barge, but the reality is totally different as soon as you hit the trail. I was blown away with just how agile, fun and playful the AM9 felt. From the get-go, I could lift the front wheel up easily, I could pop it from jump to jump or round corners as fast as I wanted, and it just felt easy to ride. That said, it's still super stable at speed and carries its momentum really well, especially when stuff gets really rough and rowdy. I had a lot of fun riding this as fast as I could, and I don't think I ever really found this bike's limits. The suspension feels supple, so it tracks the ground really well and ensures your tyres are digging into the dirt. It's also supportive enough for when you really need to load the bike and shift it through the turns or pump over obstacles to carry that momentum. And it's also progressive enough when you do take those really big thumps or big heavy landings. Despite the AM9 being quite a long bike, I actually found it really good for riding the really technical, tight, steeper trails too. You're really well centered between the wheels, and it just means small shifts in body weight makes that bike carve through the turns nicely, and it's easy to pick and choose your lines with confidence. It's worth noting that at 68 kilos, I actually had to run the shocks rebound fully open, just to get it to come back as fast as I'd like it normally. That means maybe then for lighter riders, this tune won't necessarily suit everyone. But for me, I found the perfect balance between front and rear in the end. When it comes to issues with the AM9, it's hard for me to really pick fault with the spec as such because I did pick it. But after many laps of the bike park, we did end up loosening a few of the spokes in the rear wheel and things did get a bit twangy back there. But nothing that a spoke couldn't fix, and obviously it's worth keeping an eye on those if you do ride hard and a lot. And while the race face dropper did its job well enough, it's still not quite as nice or desirable as, say, a RockShox Reverb or a Fox Transfer. But like we said, we had no real issues with it throughout testing. Overall, it really didn't take much time for me to decide that this needed to be a top 5 bike. I was seriously impressed from the first pedal stroke. The fact that you get that speed, stability, and all of the benefits of that long, slack geometry, but the fact that it's still as playful and fun as it is, really sold it for me.